Rare coin collecting. Discover real value and history in every coin.
Every once in a while, a coin comes along that feels less like pocket change and more like a time machine. A relic that carries the weight of an entire century. The 1916 Lincoln wheat penny is one of those coins. Over 100 years old, it's a survivor from a world that looked nothing like ours. A world of horse-drawn wagons, early automobiles, and a nation preparing to enter World War I. At first glance, it might seem like just another dark brown cent from the early 1900s. But behind that worn copper surface lies a story of history, scarcity, and silent value. A story that makes collectors' hearts race even today. In 1916, the Lincoln cent was still a relatively new coin. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it had replaced the Indian head penny and was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. By 1916, the design had become a national icon. Yet even with millions minted, the early teens saw inconsistencies, weak strikes, and variations that make these coins fascinating today. The U.S. Mint produced them at 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. But here's the twist. While over 130 million were struck in Philadelphia, the branch mints told a different story. The 1916 D and 1916 S pennies had far lower mintages, and it's these that collectors fight hardest to find in top condition. Back then, few people thought to save brand new cents. Most 1916 pennies were used daily, passed through stores, train stations, and factories during one of the most turbulent times in American history. That means most of them show heavy wear today, their details softened by generations of use. But a coin that has survived in pristine, mint-state red condition, that's an entirely different story. Fewer than a handful exist in high-gem grades, and they've become almost mythical in numismatic circles. Now, let's talk about value, because this is where the 1916 penny truly shines. A well-worn 1916 cent from Philadelphia might bring $1 to $3, while nicer examples climb into the $10 to $30 range. But the branch mint coins are a different world entirely. The 1916 D can reach $150 to $300 in lightly circulated grades, and a blazing red MS-65 example can fetch $2,000 to $3,500. The 1916 S, even tougher in red gem condition, has sold for over $5,000. And at the very top of the grading scale, those few flawless, perfectly preserved coins graded MS-67 red. Values have broken the $10,000 mark. These are museum-quality survivors, the finest of their kind, and their numbers can be counted on one hand. But what really makes the 1916 penny a modern grail is its rarity in color and preservation. Copper coins from this era simply weren't made to last. Over time, they darken, spot, and lose their luster. The brilliant orange-red glow seen on a freshly struck 1916 penny fades within years, unless the coin was carefully stored away, untouched by air or human hands. Every passing decade reduces the population of true, red specimens, and each one lost pushes the remaining few higher in value. That's why collectors consider this coin a sleeping giant. Not flashy like the 1909 SVDB, but quietly gaining prestige and price as time wears on. Another fascinating detail? The 1916 wheat penny still carries the original Victor D. Brenner design, unaltered by later modifications. Its portrait of Lincoln is sharper, its lettering bolder, and its reverse wheat stalks have deeper relief than later issues. You can actually feel the craftsmanship, a physical link to an era when engraving was done by hand and every die bore a human touch. Some examples even show faint die cracks or tiny variations in the placement of letters. Subtle differences that make collectors feel like they're holding a one-of-a-kind piece of history. So why are 1916 pennies getting rarer every year? It's simple. Time. Over a century of circulation, loss, and decay has claimed most of them. Many have been corroded beyond recognition, tossed out, or destroyed in bulk copper melts. The survivors, especially those still glowing red, are becoming almost impossible to find. Each time one surfaces, it sparks bidding wars among collectors who know they might not see another for years. Think about that for a second. A coin once worth a single cent, struck during the age of steam and early flight, now commanding thousands. That's the magic of numismatics, turning history into treasure. The 1916 Lincoln wheat penny isn't just a coin. It's a witness to a century of American change. From gas lamps to smartphones, from war to peace, from pennies to priceless. So before you dismiss that old brown cent in your collection, take a closer look. Check the date. Feel the weight of time in your hand. Because somewhere, hidden in an old drawer or coin roll, might lie a 1916 wheat penny that hasn't seen the light of day in 100 years. And its next appearance could change your life forever. And if you think the 1954 D. Lincoln wheat penny might look like just another old copper coin, the kind that jingles in a jar or hides in the corner of a dresser drawer. But what if I told you this humble 1-cent piece has secrets worth thousands? What if the coin you thought was common actually carried the kind of value that makes collectors' hearts skip a beat? The truth is, the 1954 D penny hides behind one of the most deceptive faces in coin history, appearing ordinary, yet holding varieties and conditions so rare they've turned average people into lucky discoverers overnight. When the Denver Mint struck these coins in 1954, America was booming. The Korean War had just ended, factories were running full steam, and copper coins flowed across the nation like rivers of small change. Over 251 million 1954 D wheat pennies were produced, a massive number that makes it seem, at first glance, like there's nothing rare about them at all. But here's where the story twists. Nearly all of those coins were circulated hard, stored poorly, or corroded over decades. Perfect survivors, the ones still glowing with that fiery, original, red brilliance, are vanishingly rare. Add in a handful of minting errors that slipped through during one of the busiest production years in Denver's history, and suddenly, the 1954 D becomes a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. The Denver Mint, known for high output, wasn't always known for precision. During the 1950s, countless dies were repunched, polished, and reused to meet demand. That led to one of the most famous quirks of this coin, the repunched mint mark, or RPM. Look closely under magnification, and you might see a faint shadow of an earlier D slightly offset beneath the main one, sometimes north, south, or east of center. These RPM varieties have been cataloged by experts and can dramatically increase a coin's value. Then there are die cracks, cuds, and struck-through errors, tiny imperfections that transform a common penny into a collectible gem. Even subtle doubling in the date or lettering can send prices soaring when authenticated by grading services. Let's talk numbers, because this is where the excitement really builds. A well-worn 1954 D penny might only fetch 10 to 25 cents, depending on its color and condition. But once you move into uncirculated territory, things escalate quickly. A bright MS-65 red coin typically sells for $60 to $120, while MS-66 red examples jump to $250 to $400. And those near-perfect gems, graded MS-67 red, have shattered expectations, with auction prices landing between $3,000 and $6,500. One breathtaking 1954 D with flawless luster and sharp strike even reached $9,000 at a heritage auction. That's 900,000 times its face value, for a coin that could still be hiding in plain sight. But why are these coins getting rarer every single year? The answer lies in chemistry and time. Copper, while beautiful, is one of the most reactive metals used in coinage. It oxidizes, spots, and fades, slowly losing that deep, vibrant red collectors crave. Every year, more 1954D pennies darken to brown, corrode in storage, or are damaged beyond grading standards. The number of true, red, mint-state examples has plummeted, and with demand at an all-time high, prices have nowhere to go but up. Even coins that were once dismissed as too new to collect are now being hunted down with intensity, especially those with visible errors or unique color preservation. But the 1954D isn't just valuable because of rarity. It's a time capsule of American resilience. These coins were minted during a decade of growth and optimism, when Lincoln's image represented integrity, leadership, and progress. Holding one is like holding a small piece of that era, a reminder of what pennies once meant in everyday life. They bought gum, newspapers, and phone calls. They jingled in the pockets of veterans, workers, and children. Now, decades later, they've become symbols of how even the smallest things can turn into treasures with time. For collectors, the thrill isn't just in finding a rare 1954D. It's in the hunt. The idea that somewhere, in a forgotten roll of wheat pennies or an inherited coin jar, there could be one flawless survivor waiting to be discovered. Maybe it's got that fiery red glow, or a doubled mint mark, or a minting flaw that makes it 1 in a million. And that's the beauty of numismatics. You never really know until you look. So before you spend that old penny, stop and take a closer look. Check the date. Look for that tiny D under Lincoln's shoulder, tilted under the light. Does it gleam bright red, like it was just struck yesterday? Because that might not just be a coin. It might be a $5,000 piece of history sitting in your hand. The 1954D Lincoln wheat penny proves that rarity isn't always about what's gone. It's about what's survived. And the next coin on our list? It's one that makes even this Denver beauty look tame. A penny. S. It's one of the most talked about coins in American history. A coin that has fueled rumors, dreams, and even treasure hunts for generations. The 1944 Lincoln wheat penny looks completely ordinary at first glance. Millions of them were struck, and chances are you've held one at some point in your life. But here's the twist. Hidden among those millions are some of the most valuable and mysterious pennies ever created. Coins so rare that just a handful exist, each worth more than a luxury car, or even a house. What you're about to learn is why this humble wartime penny has become a true American legend. The year was 1944. The world was at war. American factories were running around the clock, and metal was precious. Every ounce of copper and steel went toward the war effort. In 1943, to save copper for ammunition and supplies, the U.S. Mint made pennies out of zinc-coated steel instead of the usual bronze. Those steel cents are easy to recognize, silver gray, magnetic, and often rusted today. But when 1944 came, the mint switched back to copper. At least, that was the plan. Yet somehow a few leftover steel planchets, blank coins from the previous year, accidentally made it into the 1944 presses. The result? One of the most famous minting mistakes in U.S. history. The 1944 steel penny. Now here's where things get thrilling. The 1944 steel penny looks almost identical to an ordinary 1943 steel cent, but its date, 1944, makes it stand out like lightning in the night. Only a few dozen are confirmed to exist, and collectors go absolutely wild for them. Authentic examples have sold for staggering prices. One 1944 steel penny from Philadelphia brought $180,000. Another fetched $228,000, and the rare 1944D steel penny from Denver once sold for over $375,000 at auction. There's even a 1944S steel cent known to exist, valued upwards of $400,000. Just imagine, a single penny, worth nearly $500,000, born from a simple minting mistake during a time of war. But that's not the only secret the 1944 penny hides. There are also error varieties in the regular copper issues, double dies, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks that can be worth thousands in their own right. Some 1944 pennies were even struck on foreign planchets, bronze blanks intended for coins from other nations under U.S. minting contracts. These odd-weight 1944 errors can sell for $5,000 to $30,000, depending on their origin and condition. It's no exaggeration to say that this one year produced some of the most fascinating mint errors ever documented. Even without errors, condition plays a massive role. A standard 1944 weak penny in worn, circulated shape might fetch just a few cents to $1, but in mint state red condition, things escalate fast. A perfectly preserved MS-67 red coin can command $400 to $700, and higher-end pieces have been known to break the $2,000 mark. The ultra-rare error varieties, especially in pristine condition, have crossed the six-figure barrier multiple times at public sales. It's a collector's dream, a mix of history, rarity, and pure luck, all contained in one tiny copper coin. And the reason these treasures keep growing rarer? Time itself. Every year, more 1,944 pennies are lost to oxidation, environmental damage, and careless handling. Copper, as beautiful as it is fragile, and after more than 80 years, the number of surviving high-grade examples continues to shrink. Meanwhile, new collectors enter the hobby daily, driving demand higher and higher. Everyone hopes to be the one who discovers that elusive gray-colored 1944 steel cent, or that double die variety hiding in an old jar of change. What makes this coin so captivating isn't just the money, it's the mystery. How did those steel planchets sneak into the presses? How many more are still out there, unrecognized, sitting in someone's attic or passed down through a family collection? Every 1944 penny you pick up could be that one extraordinary piece, the one that rewrites your story in an instant. So, before you toss that old wheat penny aside, take a magnet and test it. If it sticks, you might just be holding one of the rarest coins in U.S. history. A relic born from the chaos of war, now worth more than anyone in 1944 could have imagined. The 1944 Lincoln Week penny reminds us that even the smallest things, forged in times of crisis, can become timeless treasures. And if you think this story is wild, just wait until you see the next penny, one whose origin and rarity make even this legend look ordinary. The 1952 Lincoln Wheat penny may look like just another piece of pocket change, but beneath its copper surface lies a story of rarity, history, and skyrocketing value that continues to surprise collectors year after year. This is one of those coins that seem ordinary at first glance, until you realize how few truly pristine examples remain, and how fast their prices are climbing. It's the kind of penny that might be sitting unnoticed in your collection, quietly aging as it becomes rarer by the day. But once you understand its hidden potential, you'll never look at a simple wheat penny the same way again. The year was 1952. The post-war boom was in full swing. Televisions were filling American living rooms, and coins like these were being struck by the millions to fuel a rapidly growing economy. Over 1 billion Lincoln cents were minted that year across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. On paper, that sounds like an ocean of pennies. Far too many for rarity, right? But here's the twist. The vast majority of those coins were circulated heavily, spending decades being passed from hand to hand, exposed to moisture, air, and heat. Copper, as collectors know, doesn't forgive easily. It darkens, spots, and corrodes. The result? Almost every 1952 penny you'll find today has lost its original fiery red luster, the characteristic that drives top-dollar prices at auction. When we zoom in on condition, the rarity of this coin becomes crystal clear. Out of millions minted, only a tiny fraction have survived in mint state red, MS-65 or higher. And those are the ones collectors chase relentlessly. In circulated grades, a 1952 penny might be worth 10 to 30 cents. But climb up the grading scale, and the numbers start to soar. An MS-66 red coin can bring $200 to $350, while top-graded MS-67 red examples have fetched between $4,000 and $6,000 at major auctions. The absolute finest known pieces, with flawless surfaces and blazing color, have even touched $9,000, turning what was once worth a single cent into a true numismatic treasure. But the real excitement doesn't stop there. The 1952 series is also home to some dramatic minting errors and die varieties that have collectors on constant alert. Among the most famous are repunched mint marks, RPMs, particularly on the Denver and San Francisco issues. These occur when the mint mark was punched into the die more than once, leaving behind visible doubling or shadow-like impressions. Some RPM varieties are subtle, but others are bold enough to spot with the naked eye, and when authenticated, they can multiply the coin's value several times over. Then there are die cracks, struck through grease errors, and even off-center strikes, each one adding uniqueness and collector appeal. Why then are these 1952 pennies becoming rarer and rarer with every passing year? The answer lies in both time and human behavior. For decades, few people thought wheat pennies from the 1950s would ever be collectible. As a result, most were spent, melted down, or left to tarnish in damp basements and attics. Each year, environmental damage eats away at more surviving coins, and those that remain in gem condition are locked away in private collections, rarely surfacing for sale. It's the perfect storm for rising value, increasing demand, shrinking supply, and the emotional pull of a design that captures a piece of American history. There's also a deeper story behind why collectors love the 1952 penny. This was one of the last full years of the classic wheat reverse, the two wheat stalks framing 1 cent, before the Lincoln Memorial design took over in 1959. It represents the tail end of an era, a symbol of mid-century America, when Lincoln's image stood for unity, humility, and perseverance. Every 1952 wheat penny you hold is a fragment of that story, a relic of a nation rebuilding, dreaming, and growing stronger. For those who collect with passion, the thrill lies in the search. Somewhere in a forgotten coin jar, there might be a blazing red 1952 penny, one that's escaped oxidation, circulation, and time itself. Maybe it has a doubled mint mark, or maybe it's just so perfect that it glows under the light. That's the kind of coin that transforms curiosity into obsession, and ordinary collectors into treasure hunters. So, before you dismiss that old copper coin sitting in your drawer, take a closer look. Check the color, inspect the mint mark, and see if it still shines like it did the day it was struck. Because that penny could be worth thousands, a symbol of how even the smallest piece of history can hold incredible value. The 1952 Lincoln wheat penny reminds us that treasures aren't always hidden in vaults. Sometimes, they're sitting quietly in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And up next, we'll look at another coin that pushes rarity to an entirely new level. A Lincoln cent so elusive, even seasoned collectors whisper about it. The 1956 D. Lincoln wheat penny might seem like one of the most ordinary coins ever made. Billions were struck, and almost everyone has seen one. But as collectors have discovered over the years, even the most common-looking coins can hide unbelievable secrets. The truth is, certain 1956 D pennies have stunned experts and sold for prices that would leave any collector speechless. Some of these small copper pieces have fetched over $12,000 in auctions, all because of subtle minting flaws and pristine preservation. The question is, do you have one of them sitting unnoticed in your collection or coin jar right now? In 1956, the United States was booming. Elvis Presley ruled the airwaves, the interstate highway system was just beginning, and the Denver Mint was producing an enormous number of Lincoln cents, over 1.1 billion in total. But not all of them were struck equally. The dies used for stamping coins were wearing down fast under that incredible workload, leading to misalignments, doubling, and other strange anomalies. It was also an era before the precision of modern minting technology, so even a slight variation could slip through undetected and make its way into circulation. For collectors, these imperfections are what turn an ordinary cent into a six-figure story. One of the most famous and desirable varieties from the 1956 D run is the Repunched mint mark, RPM. You can spot this era when you see two overlapping D marks, one slightly offset or shadowed behind the other. Some examples show the secondary D clearly to the east or north of the primary one, making it visible even without magnification. These aren't minor flaws, they're distinct, eye-catching varieties that have become trophies among Lincoln cent enthusiasts. Depending on clarity and grade, a sharp RPM can command anywhere from $50 to $500, and in gem condition, even more. But that's just the beginning. The real legends are the coins that have survived the passage of nearly 7 decades without ever being spent, the mint state red examples. These coins, preserved in their fiery copper brilliance, are becoming almost impossible to find. Time, oxidation, and handling have destroyed most of the natural red luster that defined them when new. In average circulated condition, a 1956 D penny might only fetch a few cents, but in MS66 red, the price leaps into the hundreds. And for the top-graded examples, those near-perfect MS67 reds, auction prices have soared beyond $6,000 to $12,000, especially for coins with exceptional color and strike quality. Imagine that. A single penny worth more than a used car, all because it survived in immaculate condition, while billions of others faded away. So, why are these coins becoming rarer and rarer every year? The answer lies in time, chemistry, and collector behavior. Copper is a living metal. It reacts with air, moisture, and even skin oils. Every time a coin is handled, it loses a bit of its original surface. Over 70 years later, only a few coins still have that original red fire that collectors crave. On top of that, the high-grade examples that remain are being locked away in private collections and graded holders, never to circulate again. With demand constantly rising and supply shrinking, prices continue to climb, quietly but steadily, as more collectors realize how few untouched 1956 Ds are left in the wild. Adding to its appeal is the nostalgia factor. The 1956 D penny represents the final years of the wheat reverse, that iconic design showing two wheat stalks embracing 1 cent. It's a design that symbolizes the strength and growth of post-war America. Simple, bold, and enduring. Just 3 years later, in 1959, the reverse design would change forever to the Lincoln Memorial, closing the chapter on one of the most beloved eras in U.S. coinage. Each 1956 D penny, then, isn't just copper. It's a tangible piece of history, struck in the heart of America during a time of optimism and progress. There's also the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that your old change jar, inherited collection, or childhood savings tin could contain one of these gems. Every year, new discoveries surface. Uncirculated rolls found in forgotten bank vaults, mint errors spotted in estate collections, and coins that Keeling's overthrow overlooked decades ago. Each discovery reignites the excitement, proof that treasures are still out there, waiting to be found by someone with a keen eye. So before you dismiss that old 1956 D penny, take a closer look under good lighting. Tilt it. Watch how the light dances across the surface, and look carefully at that tiny D mint mark. Is it doubled? Does the color still blaze with that rich red tone? you might just be holding one of the last surviving pieces of pure mid-century minting magic. A coin that turns nostalgia into value and copper into gold.